Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the marketing department buzzed with energy, the email subject line lingered on their screens. Step up and shine, unlocking freedom. An hour passed before nervous fingers broke the digital seal. For most, the company's charity gala was a mundane affair, but not this time. Benson felt the weight of 1,000 stares as they scanned the message. Gender Expression Gala, embracing every hue. Let's unite for the hospital with a vibrant dress code. No boring blacks and blues. Our theme demands every shade of self-expression. This email was simultaneously his greatest fear and a secret wish fulfilled. Hey, did you see the email about the gala? Benson startled, quickly minimizing his screen as his colleague, Richard, peered over the cubicle divider. Yeah, just reading it now. Benson cleared his throat, hoping the tremor in his voice wasn't noticeable. Richard rolled his eyes dramatically. This diversity initiative stuff has gone too far. Men in dresses for charity? Marketing teams lost their minds. It's creative, Benson offered neutrally, his mouth suddenly dry. Well, at least it's for a good cause, though I'm going to look ridiculous. Richard sighed dramatically. Anyway, you coming to the budget meeting? Be there in 5. After Richard walked away, Benson reopened the email, his pulse still racing. The company had always prided itself on being progressive, but this was unexpected, even for them. While most of his male colleagues would treat this as an amusing inconvenience or a chance to make jokes, for Benson, it was something else entirely. It was an invitation to step into the light. The following weekend found Benson in a high-end boutique across town, far enough from his usual haunts that he wouldn't run into anyone he knew. He had told the enthusiastic sales consultant that he was shopping for the company's charity event, which wasn't a lie, but he omitted that the dress was for himself. Your sister and you look to be about the same size, the consultant remarked as she helped him select several options, making assumptions that Benson didn't correct. His hands trembled slightly as he touched the fabrics. Silks, satins, chiffons, in various colors and styles. He had daydreamed about this moment for years, but never imagined it would happen under these circumstances. After trying several options in the fitting room, telling the consultant he needed to take photos to send to his sister, Benson finally found it, a lavender chiffon gown with delicate crystal embellishments along the bodice and a flowing skirt that moved like water when he walked. The color complemented his brown hair and fair skin perfectly. Looking at his reflection, he experienced a sense of rightness he had rarely felt before. That night in his apartment, Benson carefully hung the dress in his closet, occasionally opening the door just to look at it. The gala was 3 weeks away, and he had more preparations to make. This wouldn't just be showing up in a dress as a joke or for charity. He wanted to do this properly. The next few weeks passed in a blur of discreet shopping trips and late-night YouTube tutorials. Benson purchased appropriate undergarments, silver heels that he practiced walking in for hours, and delicate jewelry that wouldn't overshadow the dress. He scheduled an appointment at a salon far from his neighborhood for the day of the event, claiming he needed styling for a special occasion. As the day approached, Benson found himself thinking less about how others would react and more about the person he would become that night. In his private thoughts, he had begun using a different name, Amira. The name had come to him years ago, meaning princess or leader in Arabic, connecting to distant relatives on his mother's side. It felt right, like it had been waiting for him all along. The morning of the gala arrived with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Benson had taken the entire day off to prepare. His appointment at the salon was scheduled for early afternoon, giving him plenty of time to get ready.
Special event today?
The stylist asked as she worked on his shoulder-length brown hair, which he had been growing out for the past year under the guise of trying a new look.
Company charity gala,
Benson replied, heart racing.
It's, women's formal attire for everyone this year.
The stylist laughed.
That's different. Your company sounds fun.
It's for gender expression awareness, he explained, feeling a small thrill at saying those words out loud. 4 hours later, Benson, now Amira, stood before the full-length mirror in her apartment, barely recognizing the person staring back. The brown hair had been transformed into an elegant updo with a few soft tendrils framing her face. The lavender gown fit perfectly, the crystal embellishments catching the light with every small movement. Silver teardrop earrings and a matching pendant completed the ensemble. For the first time, the outside matched what she had always felt on the inside. The Uber ride to the hotel venue was silent, Amira too nervous to engage in small talk with the driver. She kept her wrap pulled close around her shoulders, both for warmth and as a small shield against the world. The 15-minute drive felt like both an eternity and not nearly long enough to prepare. Standing outside the grand hotel entrance, Amira took a deep breath and remembered the words she had written to herself that morning. This is your moment. Just for tonight. Be who you truly are. The hotel ballroom was already bustling with activity when she arrived. Her colleagues from accounting and sales mingled near the bar, many of the men laughing awkwardly in their hastily rented or purchased gowns, treating the evening as the joke they assumed it was meant to be. Some had made minimal effort, simply throwing dresses over their normal clothes, while others had embraced the theme with theatrical makeup and exaggerated femininity played for laughs. Amira hesitated at the entrance, suddenly feeling exposed. This wasn't a joke to her. This was everything. "Oh my God! Who is that?" The whispered question carried across the room as heads turned toward the entrance. Richard from marketing squinted through his glasses.
Wait, is that Benson?
The room didn't exactly fall silent, but there was a noticeable shift in energy as Amira took her first steps into the ballroom. Unlike most of her male colleagues, she hadn't approached this as costume or comedy. The elegance of her appearance, the careful attention to detail, it was immediately apparent that something different was happening here. "Benson, you look incredible." Patricia from HR approached first, her genuine smile cutting through some of the tension. "That color is stunning on you." "Thank you," Amira replied softly, her voice pitched slightly higher than usual, but not in a mocking way. "And actually, tonight, I'm going by Amira." The words had slipped out before she could stop them, but once spoken, they felt right, hanging in the air between them. Patricia's smile widened with understanding. "Well, Amira, you've put most of us to shame, even those of us who wear gowns regularly." The ice broken, others began to approach, some with curiosity, some with compliments, a few with barely concealed discomfort. Amira accepted it all with a gracious smile, feeling herself grow more confident with each interaction. The lavender skirt swished elegantly around her legs as she moved through the room, the sensation both foreign and deeply familiar. Marcus, the company's CEO, made his way to her side during dinner.
"I have to say, when marketing pitched this idea, I was skeptical. But seeing how everyone has embraced it, especially you. It's exactly the kind of awareness we hope to create.
Amira nodded, taking a small sip of champagne. It's been an eye-opening experience for everyone, I think.
You seem very comfortable,
Marcus observed, his tone curious rather than judgmental. Perhaps more than I expected to be, she admitted. The evening progressed with dinner, speeches about the charity they were supporting, and eventually dancing. Amira had worried about the dancing part, but found that once the music started, her body seemed to know what to do. The lavender gown flowed around her as she moved, catching the light and drawing appreciative glances. For the first time in her life, those glances didn't make her want to disappear. Instead, they made her stand taller. Around midnight, as the event was winding down, Amira found herself on the hotel's terrace, taking a moment alone to process the evening. The cool night air caressed her bare shoulder as she looked out over the city lights.
There you are.
Richard's voice came from behind her. His own attempt at the dress code had been half-hearted at best. A simple black dress thrown over his regular clothes, with minimal effort beyond that.
You've been the talk of the night, you know.
Amira turned, a small smile playing on her lips. Good things, I hope.
Mostly admiration for your commitment to the theme.
Richard leaned against the railing.
But I've known you for what, 5 years now? This doesn't feel like just commitment to a theme.
The moment stretched between them, taut with possibility. Amira could laugh it off, agree it was all for show, or she could tell the truth.
It's not,
she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. This is who I am, Richard. Who I've always been, underneath everything else.
Richard was quiet for a long moment.
I had no idea. That was the point.
Amira looked back out at the city lights.
I never thought I'd have the courage to show this side of myself to anyone, let alone the entire company.
And yet, here you are, looking more confident than I've ever seen you.
Amira touched the crystal embellishments on her bodice, feeling the cool stones beneath her fingertips.
It's strange how being yourself can do that.
The conversation was interrupted by Patricia calling them back inside for the final announcements. As they walked back together, Richard paused at the door.
For what it's worth, Amira suits you better than Benson ever did.
The gala ended with photographs, final toasts, and the announcement that they had exceeded their fundraising goal for the Children's Hospital. As people began to leave, many approached Amira one last time, complimenting her appearance or simply saying goodnight with a newfound respect in their eyes. In the Uber ride home, still dressed in the lavender gown that had changed everything, Amira made a decision. This wouldn't be just one night. The confidence she had felt, the rightness of being seen as her true self, she couldn't go back to hiding. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of anticipation and fear. Benson's masculine work clothes felt like a costume now, uncomfortable and wrong against his skin. He had spent the weekend in a daze, reliving moments from the gala and researching next steps. The terms he had avoided for so long, transgender, transition, living authentically, were no longer abstract concepts, but potential realities. Walking into the office felt surreal after the events of Friday night. Would people pretend nothing had happened? Would there be whispers, jokes, uncomfortable silences? Morning, Benson? Patricia from HR greeted him warmly as he passed her office.
Do you have a minute?
Heart pounding, he followed her inside, where she closed the door gently. I wanted to check in after Friday, she said, her expression kind. That seemed like more than just embracing a theme for charity. The understanding in her eyes made something crack open inside him. Before he realized what was happening, words were pouring out about always feeling different, about the name Amira, about the overwhelming sense of rightness he had experienced for those few hours. Patricia listened without interruption, nodding occasionally. When he finally fell silent, she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Our company benefits include comprehensive health care that covers gender-affirming care, she said simply. And our non-discrimination policy is quite clear. Whatever path you choose, you'll have support here. Tears welled up unexpectedly. I don't even know where to start. Start by being true to yourself, Patricia replied. Everything else will follow. The conversation with Patricia was the first of many over the coming weeks and months. Benson, who gradually became Amira in more and more aspects of life, found a therapist specializing in gender identity, began hormone therapy, and slowly started the process of social transition. The company proved true to Patricia's words, providing support through policy adjustments, education for staff, and practical considerations like updating email addresses and business cards. There were awkward moments and occasional missteps, but the overwhelming response was one of acceptance. 6 months after the gala, Amira came to work in a simple burgundy dress and brown cardigan, her growing brown hair styled in a feminine bob, subtle makeup enhancing her increasingly feminine features. It wasn't a grand announcement or special occasion, just Tuesday, but it marked the first day of living authentically in all aspects of her life. The lavender gown hung in a special place in her closet, a reminder of the night everything changed. Time continued its steady march forward. 1 year after the gala, Amira had fully transitioned in her workplace and personal life. The hormone therapy had softened her features and redistributed her body's proportions in ways that made her feel more at home in her skin. Her brown hair now fell past her shoulders, often styled in soft waves that framed her face. The marketing campaign that had started with a charity gala had evolved into something much larger for the company. Under Amira's guidance, now promoted to diversity and inclusion specialist, alongside her regular marketing duties, they had developed initiatives that genuinely supported gender expression and identity in the workplace. The board wants to submit our program for the Industry Innovation Award, Marcus informed her during their quarterly review. Your personal journey has transformed our entire approach. Amira smiled, smoothing her floral patterned dress. From one night in a lavender gown to company-wide policy changes. Who would have thought? Speaking of that night, Marcus leaned forward. Would you be willing to share your story as part of our submission? It's powerful and might help other companies understand the importance of creating truly inclusive environments. The request gave her pause. She had become comfortable in her identity at work, but sharing her story industry-wide was different. After careful consideration, she agreed, working with the communications team to craft a narrative that was both personal and professional. To their collective surprise and delight, the submission was selected as a finalist for the award. The ceremony would be held in 3 months at the annual industry conference. You should wear that lavender gown, Richard suggested over lunch when she told him about the nomination. Their friendship had evolved into something deeper over the past year, built on mutual respect and understanding. Bring the story full circle. It's been almost 3 years, Amira laughed. I'm not sure it would even fit anymore. But the idea took root, and soon Amira found herself visiting the same boutique where she had purchased the original gown. The same consultant was still working there and remembered her, though now there was no pretense about shopping for a sister. "I need something similar to what I bought 3 years ago," Amira explained. "A lavender gown, crystal embellishments, flowing skirt."
"For another special occasion?"
the consultant asked with a knowing smile. "You could say that. I'm receiving an award, and that original dress, it changed my life." Together, they selected a gown that echoed the first one, but suited the woman Amira had become. Still lavender, still with crystal detailing, but more sophisticated, more confident, like Amira herself. The night of the awards ceremony arrived with much less anxiety than the gala 3 years prior. Amira prepared with practiced ease, her brown hair now long enough to style in an elegant updo similar to the one she'd worn that first night. The new lavender gown fit her transformed body perfectly, highlighting the feminine curves that hormone therapy had helped develop. The reflection that greeted her was no longer surprising or foreign, but simply herself, Amira, whole and complete. Richard waited in the living room of the apartment they now shared, his tuxedo immaculate.
"You look stunning,"
he said, as she emerged from the bedroom.
"Just like that first night, but somehow even more radiant."
"The difference is that now I'm truly comfortable in my skin," Amira replied, accepting his gentle kiss on her cheek. The industry awards were held at the Grand Marriott downtown, a significantly larger venue than their company gala had been. Executives and representatives from every major firm in their sector filled the ballroom, networking and celebrating the year's achievements. "Nervous?" Richard asked as they found their table, where Marcus and other colleagues were already seated. "A little," Amira admitted. "It's one thing to be accepted within our company, another to stand before the entire industry." Marcus raised his glass in a small toast.
"Whatever happens with the award, what you've helped us build is already winning."
The category for workplace innovation was scheduled midway through the evening. As the nominees were announced and their submissions briefly described, a hush fell over their table. Amira's heart raced beneath the crystal embellishments of her gown. "And the award goes to Wright and Kendall Marketing for their Authentic Expression Workplace Initiative." The table erupted in cheers as the spotlight found them. Marcus gestured for Amira to lead the way to the stage, the team following behind her. The lavender gown caught the light as she climbed the steps, creating a shimmering effect that drew appreciative murmurs from the crowd. At the podium, Marcus gave a brief introduction before stepping aside.
"And now, the person whose courage inspired our entire program, our diversity and inclusion specialist, Amira Morris."
Taking a deep breath, Amira stepped forward. The heavy award in her hands was cool against her fingers as she looked out over the sea of industry professionals. 3 years ago, she began, her voice steady and clear, our company held a charity gala with a dress code that required all employees, regardless of gender, to wear formal women's attire. What most saw as an amusing theme night became, for me, the first public expression of my true self. The ballroom was silent, hundreds of eyes fixed on her. In a lavender gown very much like this one, I discovered the courage to begin living authentically. What followed was not just a personal transformation, but the transformation of an entire workplace culture.
"We learned that when one person is empowered to be their true self, it creates space for everyone to bring their whole selves to work," she continued, detailing the specific policies and initiatives they had implemented, the measurable improvements in employee satisfaction and retention, the broader impact on their industry relationships. Throughout her speech, she stood tall in the lavender gown that symbolized both her beginning and her continuing journey. "So this award doesn't just recognize a corporate program,"
she concluded. It recognizes the power of creating spaces where everyone can thrive as their authentic selves. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. As Amira and the team made their way back to their table, several industry leaders stopped her to express their admiration or ask questions about implementing similar initiatives at their own companies. Later that evening, as the formal proceedings gave way to music and dancing, Amira found herself once again on a terrace overlooking city lights. The weight of the award had been replaced by a glass of champagne, bubbles catching the moonlight as she took a small sip. "There you are." Richard's voice was warm as he joined her. "Everyone's looking for the woman of the hour." Amira smiled, feeling the soft lavender fabric move against her skin as she turned toward him. Just taking a moment to process everything. "I was thinking about that night 3 years ago," he said, moving to stand beside her at the railing. "You standing alone on a terrace, not unlike this one, gathering your courage." "I was terrified," she admitted. "I had no idea what would happen next." "And now look at you, industry award winner, living authentically, inspiring others." Amira gazed out at the city spread before them, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. "It still amazes me sometimes how one night, one dress code requirement, one chance to be myself, how it changed everything." "It wasn't just the dress code," Richard said softly. "It was your courage in seeing an opportunity and taking it, even though you were afraid." She nodded, feeling the weight of the journey in that simple movement. The person who had trembled while buying that first lavender gown seemed both intimately familiar and strangely distant now, like a character in a story she had read long ago. "We should get back inside," she said after a moment. "People will wonder where we've gone." As they turned to rejoin the celebration, Amira caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass doors. The elegant lavender gown, the carefully styled brown hair, the confident posture of a woman fully at home in herself, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, but simply and completely Amira. The door opened to the sound of applause as someone else received an award. Richard offered his arm, and together they stepped back into the light, Amira's lavender gown catching the room's glow as she moved. What had once been terrifying now felt like coming home, to herself, to her community, to a life lived in full color rather than shadows. In that moment, surrounded by celebration and acceptance, Amira knew with absolute certainty that the journey that had begun with an office email about a charity gala had led exactly where she was meant to be.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!